are listening to the Tricorder transmissions. Or leave. Episode 60.
Just what the doctor ordered. Right, doctor? I couldn't have prescribed better.
Thanks again for beaming aboard for our 16th episode of Shore Leave, the podcast dedicated to Trek Convention Chat. I am Jeff Hewlett, and as always, occupying the co-chair seat this evening, someone who keeps falling asleep while she's trying to rewatch Voyager.
Oh,
yes,
no.
She is the best co-host this side of the Delta Quadrant, Miss Heather Barker.
Oh, no. I guess I tweeted it, so it's out there, and everybody knows that.
Oh, it's totally out there. I remember reading it on Twitter.
Oh, it used to be my favorite, too, and this is the third time I've rewatched it, and for some reason I'm having difficulty.
You know, it's amazing because I just started a Voyager rewatch and I'm just into the second season and I'm liking it more this time I'm watching it and you're liking it less. Is that weird?
Yep.
I guess there's no accounting for taste. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. So you're hearing some other laughs. Also with us on the show tonight is our roaming convention correspondent, Marina Kravchuk, is returning to the show this week. How are you, Marina?
All right. Hello, everyone.
Hello again. Hello again. And finally, we have a newcomer to the show. This is one of Heather's friends and Marina's friends. And I believe that I met you briefly at STLV at one point, Frankie Englebert.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi. I'm good.
Welcome.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. So tonight, we are going to be talking about a brand new Star Trek convention that just happened called the Northeast TrekCon. It took place last weekend in New York. Both Marina and Frankie were in attendance. So it wasn't a lot of detail I remember seeing on the website, and the website is actually changed now, so you can't go there and see all of the cool stuff that happened at this con, but thankfully we've got two people who are in attendance that are going to tell us all about it. So I was thinking to start off, let's give us a sense of scale for this convention. I was wondering how it compares to some of the other ones like STLV, some of the smaller creation cons, maybe Mission New York. Marina, do you want to kick us off talking about the scale?
Sure. This is very much, and I'm going to quote again Larry Nemechek because he, given his experience, he's probably seen every kind of convention out there. He called it the RetroCon. This was basically an example of what conventions used to be, before all these monsters started to become a staple of the convention scene. So it's this typical convention that used to be, 15, 20 years ago when you have a small hotel and a rather small crowd of people. Not a very extensive, compared to STLV, of course, list of guests, but still sizable enough. So you have a little bit of everything. I'm going to say, I pretty much bumped into the same people over 3 days. I'm going to say a couple of hundred people at most. That's how small it was. But at the same time, they had enough programming to keep everyone occupied for 3 days. And it was all extremely relaxed and extremely intimate. So it was a very nice kind of, this is probably the smallest convention I've ever been to, but I enjoyed myself immensely.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Frankie, how do you feel about the scale? You agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've been to a few other conventions. I've been doing conventions since 98, and this was the smallest convention I've ever been to. And like Marina said, I think I heard the number that was registered was 231, so very small. But it was nice because you really were able to spend time talking with the actors and, you just got the quality time that you would not get at a larger convention. So
as a matter of fact, there were some events that they had even the guests participating. It wasn't just so much that, just go up to the table, the usual thing.
Right.
But, they had a Star Trek Jeopardy.
Yeah.
They had a fan coupled with, not coupled, paired is a better word, paired with a celebrity. So J.J. Hertzler participated, and a visitor participated, Aaron Eisenberg participated. And so you had 3 teams, which was, by the way, hysterical, absolutely hysterical. Or they had, it was an extra ticket, but it was basically, obviously geared towards fans, to have like a little meet and greet. They had a dinner on Friday. And same thing, everybody sitting in the same room. You can just basically go up and talk to them.
That's pretty cool. What hotel did this take place in up there? It was upstate New York, right?
Yes, this was in Radisson, Albany. So it was in Albany, but it's not like Albany. You start thinking large city. It was actually a little bit on the outskirts of it. So it's, we didn't have skyscrapers around. Fairly small, and I rather found the construction of it, the way the building is set up. It had an internal enclosed courtyard with a pool. So the rooms that were specifically put aside for the convention for these 3 days, they were all, well, actually, majority of them, I'm not sure about all, they were facing into the courtyard. So I actually haven't seen the light of day in 3 days. The window was facing outside. I could see the tables where the actors were sitting. So that was kind of nice. Everybody was enclosed in this tiny little space, because literally I would walk out of the room, 20 steps, here are the tables, go up one flight of stairs, and here's the main room or the smaller rooms where they had events.
Interesting. Like being on a starship itself, maybe.
Yeah.
This actually kind of reminds me a little bit of the smaller cons here in Jersey, Marina, like the Monster Manias and Chillers.
Somewhat, yeah, but it was a little bit more convention-like, whereas Monster Mania and Chiller, they're more like signing events rather than conventions.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I apologize for interrupting. I read up like a little, they have like log entry, which are basically like blog entries on the side. If you read it up, the organizer of the event, the Jerry Silber, who's a very long time fan of Star Trek, he actually wrote about it that he kind of tried to pattern it on Shore Leave, the convention in Maryland. Okay. So that's kind of, if you've ever been to Shore Leave, you would have the basic idea what the convention felt like.
I know a lot of people that go to that one, but I've never been to it.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. No, I was going to say I've been to Shore Leave before, and it's a fan-run convention. It's very well organized. I definitely like, doing that convention. So for him to pattern it after that, I mean, that's the right formula. So I think he did a good job.
What do you guys? So when you pattern it after, like, how do they compare? How is Shore Leave different from STOV, or like how is it a different type of convention?
Oh, Frankie, you'll have to pitch in because I've actually never been to Shore Leave. I've just heard about it.
Okay.
Well, Shore Leave, because it's I don't, when I go to a creation event, it's more, I'm having a hard time articulating the words on it. I mean, it seems more commercialized, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Where when you went to Shore Leave and when you went to this convention, it like Marina said earlier, it's a retro type of thing. It's you're spending time with the actors. The prices aren't outrageous to get your photo ops or your any of your goodies or anything like that. It's just and the talks are. It's not just panels of guests talking about their upcoming projects, and it's more interactive with the people that are attending the convention. So I always have a good time, at Shore Leave, and like this one, I really had a really good time too. Too much of a good time. Like Friday night I had karaoke, and I paid for that the next day.
Karaoke seems to be a very popular thing at a lot of these events. I think it's something that they can do cheaply, and a lot of people enjoy it.
Yes.
I noticed that was one of the questions I was going to ask as far as the panels. I was looking over the Northeast Trek Convention's Facebook page, and they had a pretty diverse set of panels. They had a lot that sounded very scientific, boldly going to Pluto and particle physics, Star Trek.
There was actually something that Jerry, the organizer, specifically put out there. I mean, the whole idea behind the convention was that, yes, we're celebrating 50 years of Star Trek. He wanted to have a component, in memory of Leonard Nimoy, and I'll get to that at some point. But another major thing was to promote the connection between Star Trek and science. And not like science, which we've had at several other conventions where you would have, like talking about something scientific, and Star Trek as part of the panel. Here it was quite a separation. Those were I wouldn't call it hardcore, but those were specifically science panels. So as a matter of fact, from what I gathered, probably, I don't know, maybe half of, I shouldn't say half of the guests, but on those panels, of science panels that I did attend, several of the professors from University of Albany, they actually specifically said, it was like, I actually don't know anything or much about Star Trek. I'm just here to talk to you about, I don't know, black holes or something, or,
that's awesome.
Galaxies, or, what have you. But at the same time, it's obviously something the subject matter is recognizable because, you know, in one way or another, we've seen something on Star Trek that would be like, well, yeah, exoplanets, you know.
Yeah.
I have to say that when they started finally actually, you know, saying, okay, we found exoplanets, real exoplanets in real life. For me, it was like, well, that's not that big of a mind shift to imagine that, yeah, there are stars with exoplanets. I've seen it all on Star Trek already, you know? So kind of like that. I mean, there were a couple of panels where I suppose science was, or at least the concepts that we're trying to talk to were a little bit more involved. I was leading one of the panels and there was I don't know if it's mother and daughter or maybe sisters of different ages. And they were walking out and one of them said, this is a little bit over my head. It was interesting, but she's like, I didn't quite get everything that they were talking about. So there was a little aspect of that, but majority of the science panels were highly enjoyable, at least for me. It was actually very reminiscent of college for me.
Yeah, the more I hear about these types of panels at these conventions, I know they had some at Mission New York too. I really wish that Creation would do some of these educational panels at STLV. I would love to sit in those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, especially considering that Arizona is right next door, they could get probably somebody from University of Arizona to do specifically educational panels. On the other hand, you know, like when you are talking about very large conventions where you do have commercial component, and let's face it, now CBS is a little bit more involved in all this stuff, or much more involved, I should say. You know, it might not have enough. Like, well, is there really commercial interest in having just strict science thing that does not have Star Trek featured in it to be part of, you know, a large commercial convention? So that's kind of a, let's hope that there's, at least we get the mixed ones, because that would be wonderful.
I mean, they had some in the past. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
At least like 2 or 3 years ago, they had quite a few scientific panels, and it's sad that they got rid of them because this is like the one convention I get to go to every year. STLV is, and so I would love to see those panels since it's the one opportunity I get outside of Denver. So email Creation, right?
Yeah. Frankie, did you attend any of those?
I attended a couple of the science, well, not really the science track. The one that I was interested in was religion in Star Trek, and it was a really cool talk. And it first ever they had food there. There was bacon and stuff. I was just like, oh my God, there's food here. So yeah, I was really excited about that at first. But as far as the talk, they had a rabbi who was talking about his love for Star Trek, and then he, you know, talking about how religion was introduced into, you know, all the episodes, the movies, and things that I've seen everything, all the series except for Deep Space Nine, and you know, I didn't realize like how much, you know, they referred to religion in you know, in the series and some of the movies. So I just, you know, I found that talk really, really interesting. That was a really good talk.
Did you hit that one up, Marina, or no?
No, actually, I have to admit it. I was still asleep. I opted to go to a later. Yes, I know. I figured, you know, I was relaxing. This was like the most relaxed convention I've ever been to. But no, but besides, they did have wonderful stuff. So just to back up a little bit, so they had like I mean, I wouldn't call it main theater, but it was like a main large room where they would have mostly media related panels, which means, you know, actor panels or anybody else talking about actually something specifically related to Star Trek. And then they had two smaller rooms, one of which had maybe like, I don't know, enough seating for maybe 50, 60 people. That was for science. And there was a third room, which I have to say I never actually checked out, but supposedly it had videos playing through the entire day. So I'm guessing they were just they were screening episodes. So the panels that I really did enjoy, the science ones, like I mentioned, exoplanets. That was a wonderful, wonderful, fun panel. The gentleman brought terrific presentation. That was great fun. There was another one on our galaxy, Milky Galaxy, so that was wonderful. And then rest of the stuff, I have to say, Saturday, I was actually mostly in the main room because, Larry had several panels there. Bob Picardo and Garrett Wong had a Q&A panel there. Richard Michelson, who represents Leonard Nimoy's photography. So his gallery was actually the one that, they still exhibit his photographs. He did a panel on, the photography, plus he also wrote a book on Leonard Nimoy's life. So that was wonderful. It was Women in Star Trek panel.
Oh.
Yeah, Nana Visitor, Chase Masterson, and Robin Curtis. It was not as involved as it was as the one that we had at
Mission New
Missions.
York.
Yeah, because that one was, I suppose that's right now the mark. That was the ultimate Women in Track panel ever. But it was still very nice. So all in all, terrific panels. And then, in the evening, things kind of, a lot of people left. So I don't know how many people were actually at karaoke. I think somebody actually said, well, we're trying to do something and there's nobody here. I suppose a lot of people kind of, I don't know. There was a mix of people who've never been to conventions to sort of older fans who probably got their fill during the day with the panels and just left.
Yeah.
So we did, Larry did the Con of Wrath fundraiser on Saturday night, and we had maybe about 7, 8 people.
There were 8
roughly?
people there, yeah.
Yeah. So that was a fun one.
It was, but it ran until like 12:30.
Yeah. and Larry was like, this is so, like, the retrocons, people still supposed to be around doing stuff, and there was nobody there.
Yeah. Oh, and just for the record, Marina made me feel like I know nothing about Star Trek.
That's not true. I was tired. I don't remember what I was saying.
Oh yeah. So we're doing this raffle, the what was it, the Wrath of Khan, or the Khan of Wrath. So
Con of Wrath, yeah.
Yeah, and so he's got these trivia, and it was between Marina and another guy that was there. I don't know his name, but
he's actually a professor.
Oh yeah. So I'm sitting there, and you get a ticket for every time that you answer a question correctly. So I ended up with like 2 tickets. By the way, Marina's got 8 instead of 6, and so I'm like, man, I know nothing about Star Trek.
Don't worry. I identify because that's what happens if I do that with Claire. She knows everything and I know nothing. So, yeah.
Well, it's like, have you ever attended any of the trivia things that they did at Roddenberry stage during the Still V?
Yeah.
Oh my, Ian Adams. Oh my God, the guy's on fire. I was like, I can't, I'm like, I only have like a third of a thought in my brain. He already knew the answer.
We all have very fond memories of trivia games on this show and among our friends, it seems. So more trivia.
I read a joke somewhere where it's like, like how much stuff you actually, things that you think about, it was like, 15% about your job and something else, about 80% Star Trek trivia,
I guess we know who we need to form the trivia super team here.
Yes.
So, guys, what was the vibe like? I mean, it was a smaller con. He said maybe 200 and some odd people there. Was it subdued? Was it more festive? What was the overall feeling? Was it more celebratory for the 50th or what?
Well, Friday started out a little bit slow, at least in my opinion. I think the first event was around 11 or 12, and it was like literally 25, 30 people wandering about. I'm like, well, this is a small convention. I'm not quite sure what to expect, so I was just observing basically. But then Saturday, Sunday, it really picked up. Well, of course, there were many more people, and definitely not subdued. Everybody was very enthusiastic. There hasn't been a convention in this particular area in a very long time, if ever. So people were extremely happy that, you actually have a track event. A lot of people cannot make it. Even, you would think, well, you're in New York State. Shouldn't you have gone to like, New York missions? Not everybody can, whether, time-wise, money-wise, whatever it can be. So, no, it was very enthusiastic, and I'm I enjoyed myself. Frankie says she's enjoyed herself. It was a very nice convention.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't get there until later on Friday, just driving in. So I pretty much I missed all the panels on Friday, but I was able to come for the dinner and the karaoke. But yeah, I mean Saturday, very everybody was really into seeing the panels and hanging out, and you got to meet new people. So yeah, it was very, very festive. Even though it was a smaller convention, it was still very, very festive.
And that's when people actually started showing up wearing uniforms or costumes. So,
yes.
There were several fantastic, outfits. There was one girl who was dressed up as Garrick. That was really good.
My gosh.
I mean, if she had perhaps, I mean, I'm not sure how she selected the costume specifically, but the makeup was spot on. It was great.
Yeah. You should have seen her at the costume contest. she described how she did all that makeup, and she actually came up with the idea like the week before, and for
Oh,
her to pull
wow.
it together, I wish I had taken a picture of it and shared it, but yeah, she for the amount of makeup and everything that she did just 5 days prior, to create that whole costume or her look, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
That's
I have a
amazing.
picture. I have a picture from afar because she was actually in one of the teams for Star Trek Jeopardy. It's
Okay.
you can see that yeah, one of the teammates is Kardashian. So I can post that whenever we have the link up.
I was gonna actually perfect segue, Marina, into cosplay. I was gonna bring cosplay up. Would you say it's was there a good amount of cosplay there? Was it what you expected, more or less?
No, I mean I suppose I could say that it is for a small convention. I think it was pretty good. I mean, mostly those people who wore something, they wore just regular uniforms.
Mhm.
There was one pretty amazing Seven of Nine, which I don't know why she did not participate in the costume contest because that was like probably the best costume of the weekend. I mean, spot
Wow.
on the whole thing. The unitard, the prosthetics. So for a small convention, I think it was pretty good. It could have been more, of course, but it would seem to me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe because like the way the age was, it was a little bit more towards older fans.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, for a small convention, I thought it was good.
What do you think, Frankie? Did you anything stick out to you that you saw?
There was one of the, and I'm going to get this, one of the ladies that dressed up who did enter the contest, and she ended up winning the overall contest. She was dressed up. What was it? Was it the Cloud People? She had on the blue outfit. The traditional. From the original series. She had a very brave. She was very, very brave because you remember the original series. There wasn't a whole lot of clothing there.
Yeah.
Barebacked and two pieces of material covering her, but I mean she did an awesome job. It was this long beautiful dress, blonde hair, and she had the belly dance wings, but she was using it as a cape, and she was just very, very creative, and I really enjoyed it. And I will have to look up the episode that she was from. As soon as I show you a picture of it, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's where it's from. But as far as the cosplay, yeah, I thought it was pretty good for the amount of folks that were there.
Very cool. So, what was the celebrity interactions and photo ops situation there? Did you guys get to talk to anybody? Do any pictures?
Yeah, they basically had tables, so it wasn't like an official thing when you have autographing happening elsewhere and photo ops with the official, photographer somewhere in the room. It was very informal. So you just go up to a table, and pretty much same way as if you've ever been to any of the like smaller signing events, you just pay the nominal fee and you can get the autograph or the photo op or autograph and photo op, whatever they're charging. They had primarily. Well, let's see. I had my little list here because I jotted down who was at the convention. So as far as actors were concerned, they had Bob Picardo, they had Nana Visitor, Robin Curtis, J.J. Hertzler, Chase Masterson, Garrett Wong, and Aaron Eisenberg. And so that was it. And then you have 16 or 17 scientists, and then you have Larry Nemechek and Adam Nimoy and Doug Drexler were called in through Skype. So the panels were on the screen.
Okay.
But it was wonderful fun. Basically talking about Adam was obviously talking about For the Love of Spock, and Doug was just generally talking about his involvement in Star Trek. And there was several other guests, so it was very nice coverage all in all.
Very cool. Did you get any photos yourself?
Just Robin Curtis, because I recently realized as I'm trying to kind of clean up my my collection. I've met her many years ago, and I've never had a photo op with her. Just somehow slipped through the cracks. So she's the only one that I did the photo op with.
How about you, Frankie? Any photo ops for you?
Well, it wasn't a traditional, where you've been to conventions, you put your ticket and there's a professional backdrop, and it was. I mean, not that I saw it, Marina, unless you're going to correct me. I mean, you basically went up to a table and had your camera.
Yeah, that's all there was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just can I have my picture taken with you? And most of the actors were very, very gracious and, did it, some of them did it without charging you a fee for it. It was just that, at that level, they were happy to hang out and talk and chat, and they're not being herded off like cattle, being like, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that was That's what I really liked about the convention. But yes, I got my photo taken with Larry. Well, it was all formal. Larry, Garrett. I'm trying to think of who else. There was an actor, or not an actor, an author, Christopher Abbott, who he's a British author, and we were chatting for a while because the books that he wrote wasn't about Trek; it was more fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had to have my picture taken with him, and plus I'm a fangirl when it comes to a British accent, so he could say he read the back of the book, and I would have been fine with that. So yeah, but yeah, it was pretty cool.
Awesome. That's kind of what the cons around here are like. That's what I'm used to, is the whole just walk up to the table and get a picture with them right there. So I remember going to my first creation convention. I was pretty shocked that it was so different than what I'm used to here in Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, the smaller it gets, the easier it is to control, and the crowds tend to be a little bit milder, I suppose, in terms of behavior. But yeah, like talking about that dinner that we had, it was about 50 people that the whole event was for. So the area where they had cocktails, everybody mingling around. Yeah, people were just doing selfies. Just you stand there, talk to them, and you can ask for a photo. One person was walking around just collecting autographs. Just like that. And they were all perfectly fine with it because it was all very relaxed, and nobody was pushed into anything.
Right.
Not that they're pushed into anything, when you have larger conventions, but then, things just generally get bigger, and you definitely need completely different organization for it all.
Yeah. It reminds me of when like Creation would do the breakfasts and lunch or whatever it was. I never went to one, but I think those were a little smaller in scale. But they do something similar here at Starfest in Denver too, where Friday night and I'm pretty sure it's an extra ticket. But same type of thing where there are tables around and the actors just walk around and you can approach them and talk to them and get to know them. So it seems to be a benefit of some of the smaller conventions. I think that this convention is smaller than Starfest even, but kind of a neat thing, especially when it's not an exorbitant price.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I loved about it. It didn't break the bank, especially after Mission New York. It was nice to have a reasonable hotel and a reasonable price to pay for a convention.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, do you guys you both stayed at the hotel? What were the rates for the tickets and the rooms there?
Oof. Let's see. Well, the ticket for the convention itself was $80 for a weekend. $80, 80.
Friday, Saturday,
and the dinner was $30. That was the extra ticket, and the hotel itself. I want to say that I paid $300, but that was including the room service, and that was for 2 nights. So it's probably was somewhere in the order of like 130 something per night, 120 maybe even. It was the convention rate. So it was very affordable. Frankie, I know that you stayed at a different hotel though, right?
I did. I stayed right next door at the Hampton because I'm a Hilton member, so I'm always trying to build up points. So when I saw it was just right next door and I could pretty much walk over to the Radisson, my rate was $92 a night for my hotel. And but I lucked out. I signed up online for the convention and paid through PayPal, and my ticket was $70 for all 3 days plus $30 for the dinner. So.
Wow. That is very affordable.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what happens when you have really, really small conventions.
Yeah.
So what was the vendor situation like there, since it was a smaller con? Were any of the vendors you've seen at other conventions there?
Well, technically, it wasn't really a vendor area. That courtyard that where they had all the tables, it was largely occupied by the guests. So I'd say probably 2/3, 3/4 of the tables were either actors or authors. Larry had his own table. Richard Michelson had his own table. They had, I think it was some sort of, it was either a website or it could have been a club, somebody that does models. And they had a whole bunch of models of various Starfleet ships. Sorry, ships. Just laying there on the table, and a whole bunch of flyers and with information. I've never seen a person at the table, so I couldn't even ask for further information. Like, was that something that they would, like a club that they were advertising? What was that? A mission log was there. So they were doing interviews with actors. I know there was one gentleman who had a wonderful selection of various Star Trek books, including a lot of the recent ones, like the 50-year mission. And I think that's all he was basically doing there. He was just selling the books. Other than that, there wasn't really anything else. That I can't really even think of anybody who would be selling any kind of collectibles. There was nothing like that. It was just straight on. It was either guests or, like that one bookseller and authors. That's it.
Wow, really easy to save money there.
Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, the one thing that I specifically put like $20-25 aside. I wanted to get a T-shirt from Garrett Wang because he ran out of them during Cherry Hill convention, and I figured, well, I'll see him at some point, and he always brings T-shirts when he has his own table. And he had the T-shirt, but he didn't have my size. I wanted that Captain Proton T-shirt that he had in his, selection of T-shirts. So I saved $25.
Well, yeah, I wanted to get my Chakotay T-shirt from him, and he was like, "All I have is sleep size." It was like a 3X or something.
3X, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, that won't work for me. But yeah, it was. I don't know. I don't know how I still managed to spend like $300 though. I did at the convention because I bought artwork from Rich Steinbach.
Sternbach, yeah.
Sternbach. So I bought artwork from him. Larry Nemechek, he had that. What was that? The cartography.
Stellar cartography book. Yeah,
great book.
He signed. So and I bought some of the books from the authors, like Christopher Abbott. I think I just bought it just because of his British accent. So probably.
You got one book from Michael Jan Friedman, right?
Yep, I
the TNG book.
Yep. So so I still, between that and getting some of the autographs that I hadn't gotten before from Aaron Eisenberg and Robin Curtis, I still managed to spend like $300 at the convention. So
I only got stuff from well, like I said, the photo op with Robin Curtis. I actually did get her autograph because she had a very wonderful photograph of various roles of hers, just basically artfully arranged on a single page. That was very lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I won a few things through that kind of fundraiser, so that actually did not involve any money. And that's basically all the collectibles that I brought with me. I just have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I didn't get anything from Rick Sternbach, even though I did go through all the bins that he had, because a lot of the stuff that he had for sale, I actually already have through his eBay store. Okay. So, but there was interesting stuff. I mean, if you don't, I suppose, if you have like limited number of conventions that you go to and you've never met any of these people, then of course it's very easy to see your wallet shrink really fast.
Yes. Yeah.
And did the con itself have any specific merchandise? Did they have a con T-shirt or anything?
Yes, they did. It was basically a plain white T-shirt that had the name, the date, and I think. Oh, I didn't look very closely at it because, as I already mentioned, I have way too many T-shirts, so I wasn't planning on getting any except for that Captain Proton one. One thing that actually did impress me, for a small convention like this, they had a very, very nice printed program, like a little book that had the listing of the schedule and pictures and names of all the guests. So that was, for a small event like this, smaller creation events, you usually just have a plain white printed schedule, and you don't really have much else. Not unlike CLV, where we do get a booklet with, nice printed stuff inside. So that was very, very neat. So I figured, like as far as collectibles, as something specific for the convention, I'm very happy just having the booklet with the schedule, because that was unusual.
It's cool. Maybe you could give us a picture of it so we could put it up on the website.
Absolutely.
So do they have like a special artwork and logo on the cover of it, kind of like they do for Vegas?
Oh, not really. I mean, it's basically what you see on the website. Northeast Trek Con, kind of. I'm not quite sure what. How to describe it. I'll take a picture so you do have sort of the picture of the cover of the booklet, and it'll be obvious. So it's not specific, and I'm sure they're probably going to maybe reuse it or change it, as things go along. Which is kind of brings me up to the thing. I mean, if you look online, they say now that check back once our next convention is announced. So I'm assuming that this event is going to happen again.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people they were expecting. What was sort of the break point? Was convention successful? Was it not too successful? But I'm kind of hopeful that they will do it again because this was very nice, organization wise. Number of guests, the way the whole thing ran. It was very good.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jerry, the organizer, I was talking with him on Sunday, and it's something that he definitely wants to do again. And he realizes there's some feedback, but he about how to make things a little bit better, more advertising, because I think that's where they really fell short for the amount of stars that they had there. I mean, they could have had a lot more folks that shown up. So he realizes he needs to advertise a little bit better in the future, but he definitely wants to do it again next year. And so I'm hoping he does, because it's only a 3-hour drive for me.
Yeah, 2.5 for me.
Yeah. So I'm more than willing to go again. And he's also talking about having some of the Star Wars folks that are from the 501st. So it might not be strictly Trek next year, but I told him, well, I'll still come. I'll still
Well, that's great. Yeah, I was going to bring that up to Marina because I looked at the website earlier and I thought it was pretty cool that they already had that the teaser for checking back for the next announcement. So I had assumed before even talking to you guys that it was at least somewhat successful.
I would think so. I mean, overall, just seeing how people were reacting, I think everybody enjoyed themselves very much. It was a good convention.
And that's good that it pleased everybody and all age ranges and stuff like that, even if it was an older crowd. And
it evened out. Like Friday was a little bit more noticeable, but Saturday was certainly the day with, I'm sure, the biggest crowd, and it's just generally you could see that as usual, Star Trek brings all the ages. So you had some smaller kids, and then pretty much the entire range.
Very cool. Do you think a lot of people drove there or were locals? Was it a convention that you think a lot of people would have flown into?
No, I don't think anybody really flew in for that convention. It sounded like it was. There were a lot more local folks that showed up for that, just because they heard it through word of mouth. They heard it through, their college. Again, it wasn't widely advertised. Had I not been checking a list to see where actors were going to be, I wouldn't have even known about that convention. So.
Yeah, I accidentally came across the link on Facebook, I think. And I'm like, Northeast TrekCon, I'm in Northeast, so something is happening. Where is that? And then, it just randomly just popped out of nowhere. And I absolutely agree with Frankie. I think pretty much everybody was local. And they made a point of kind of saying, like, this is the convention. Finally we have it in our region, right here. Yeah. So I think majority of people drove in.
So, controversial question for you, Marina, since you've been to so many conventions this year. Where would this one rank amongst all the other ones for you?
I have to say that this year I pretty much covered probably the entire range of possible conventions out there. I've been to franchise-specific, non-franchise-specific, very large Comic-Con, medium-sized Comic-Con, So it's kind of difficult because category-wise, it was completely... in a class by itself in a way, because so now I've gone to a RetroCon. I have that experience. In terms of you can't really compare. It's just so different, in size and scope to I could compare like Chicago Convention to Cherry Hill Convention because at least they're sort of in the same vein and by the same organizer. But in this case, it was the most relaxing and the smallest convention of the year. That's what I can say. I would not, compare it to even the smaller creation cons because it's just different.
Yeah, but it sounds like you would go back again. So
absolutely. As we discussed during the episode when we talked about the missions, different is good. That's when you see the variety. That's when you can kind of really pick out what you enjoy.
Frankie, how does it stack up against other cons that you've been to? Do you like it better, worse? Where would you rank it for yourself?
I would have to, I hate to say what Marina said, but really what she said, after hitting Vegas and Mission New York and, this convention, this was, I really couldn't compare it to the other conventions. It had its own feel, its own vibe, and something that I really enjoyed. So, I can just tell you that I enjoyed it, and I would definitely go back. Yeah, and it was a great way to end out the year because my husband's threatening to divorce me if I don't. No, he's like, enough with conventions. He's like, how many have you been to so far? So it's like this was a nice way to wrap up the year for me.
Yeah, very much so.
I guess con season is pretty much over.
Yeah.
No, I was planning to end after New York Comic Con. That was kind of like the last one. I'll be like, going out on a very high note. And then, like I said, this thing just popped out of nowhere, and I really wanted to check it out. And now, finally, that's it. Convention season is done until next year.
So I guess we can start wrapping up our conversation about the Northeast TrekCon with any final thoughts you guys might have. Frankie, is there anything else you'd like to say about the convention before we close up?
That I had a really good time, and I hope they do it again next year because that was a lot of fun. So, and I'll cosplay. I'd actually,
Nice.
well, I didn't do any cosplay this, at the convention. I brought a uniform, didn't wear it, but I'll definitely wear a costume next year. Oh, and I wanted to say, it was the girl who won the costume contest. It was from the episode the Cloud Minders, and she was just Droxine.
Yep.
Yeah, Droxine.
Yes.
That's what I wanted because I'm like, that was driving me crazy. So that's what I want.
Nice. Anything else you want to add, Marina, before we close up?
Not much else. I mean, we pretty much covered the whole thing. So it was a nice diversion in a way from our typical understanding of conventions the way they are right now. A retro convention, very nice, very relaxed, and let's see what we're gonna what we're gonna have in next year.
All right, excellent. Thanks a lot, Heather. Anything else from you?
No, thanks guys for coming on and telling us about it.
Well, thank you for having us.
So that wraps up the 16th episode of Shore Leave. Frankie, where can people find you if they're looking for you on social media?
They can find me on Facebook, Frankie Don Englebert, or FD Bragg on Twitter. So you can reach me through those two. Excellent.
Marina, where can people find you?
Similarly, Facebook, and the handle is Dracorex, DRAKKOREX, and same one on Twitter and Instagram. And I did mention it in one of the previous episodes. The best one publicly to reach me is probably Twitter. Facebook, I'm a little bit peakier this year, these days, as far as adding more requests.
I think we all are, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a very odd thing. I just got 5 new this weekend. It's all, to use Twitter term, they're all eggheads. Like when you just have literally no picture, no nothing, just the name.
Yeah,
I don't know who these people are.
Yeah, it's we might talk about that down the road, and how that all works. Yeah.
Yes.
Speaking of which, where can they find you, Heather?
Oh, I'm Sketching Venus on Twitter and Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. But yeah, again, just being picky. Send me a message is what I say. If you want to friend somebody, send them a quick note and tell them who you are and how you know them. You heard them on the podcast, etc. And you're much more likely to get friended back that way.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Very much so, yes.
I totally
Very few
agree.
people come to that conclusion, which is strange. I did friend a couple of folks who, I think it's not so much that I recognize them as they recognize me, probably through different groups. And I would get a lovely message saying that, hi, we're in the same group and I enjoyed this and that and I have a question or I would like to do, whatever. And then, there you go. Just hit it off right there. But a lot of folks, even the ones that I've met, which did happen a few times, and I'm like, I didn't even know that was you. Just this random thing popping up that, I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. It's hard when you're just a little square and you're a picture of, as a character and you're Captain Picard and a picture of Captain Picard. And I'm like, I don't know who you really are. So sorry.
Right. Like weirdo, stranger danger. Nope, I'm not accepting that.
Yeah. And sadly, there are real people out there who are scary. We had one pop up in our community and sent out a
Recently,
warning.
yes.
Yeah, sent out a warning about that. Somebody who has committed crimes and been in prison. So we are cautious for a reason.
Yeah, this is actually the first time that I'll say this myself too, that I would recommend if anybody wants to friend me on Facebook to send me a message too, because I've started to get a lot of these strange requests from people who have no mutual friends and I've never heard of them. And if you listen to the podcast and you want to friend me, please send me a message. I have no problem friending you, but if I've never seen your name before and I don't recognize your face, I'm probably not going to accept the friend request. So you can also find me as J_BENJ on Twitter. And if you want to know more about the show, you can find us at the tricordertransmissions.com, facebook.com/tricordertransmissions, and TTT_pod on Twitter. We also have a Shore Leave handle on Twitter. It's at Shore Leave. You can hit us up there. And you can find us on iTunes. If you want to leave us a review, that would be really, really nice. We could use some more star reviews and written reviews to help us get new listeners, and that would be really, really cool. And that's about it for this episode, and we'll see you again for the holidays. And thanks again for listening, and we'll see you soon.